Hi, in this review I'm going to talk about the Famous Grouse, the Ruby Cask version. Find out why it's so great and why you should start drinking already today. Well, actually I can't promise that, but I can promise it's going to be entertaining. See you soon. Not 1 minute. Not 1 minute. Quarantine reviews. Big challenge. Now whiskey. Yeah. Buffer whiskey, yes. Hi, my name is Leonardo, and if this is the first time you're watching this channel or my review series, well, without explaining how many years of experience I have and how much I love whiskey, I'll get to it. Basically, this review is done in 3 sections. You got, first of all, how beginner friendly is the whiskey. Second of all, how original or how creative is the whiskey. And that's many factors that go into it. It's more abstract. It's not something we can always look at and say it's the same next week. Then the third category is what cocktail does it fit into? And if it doesn't fit into any, we just invent it. No, actually we choose 3 in those categories. And that means Manhattan, Old Fashioned, or a whiskey sour. All brilliant and great whiskey cocktails. And of course we have to finish and tell you, is it worth your money? Now, to be honest, I don't remember the price right now. I think it's around 20 euros, but we'll find out. And if I'm wrong, the editor will actually write the right price there. But as I recall, it's around 22-ish euros. So without further ado, we're talking about a blended Scotch. And if you're into whiskey, then let me tell you what Scotch is. Scotch is whiskey from Scotland. That's right. If it's from Ireland, it can never be Scotch. If it's American, it cannot be Scotch. It has to be produced in Scotland. And it's a blend. And without going into too specific things into what blends are, let's just cut to the chase. A lot of snobs, people who like, no, you cannot drink this. This is not whiskey. It's too cheap. These people, they usually don't like blends. But they forget that if it wasn't for blends, we wouldn't have whiskey today. Because when it's bad times, and that means financially or production-wise, it's blends that makes us survive in the whiskey industry. I love blends, I love single malts, I love single cask, I love all types of whiskey. But I have a huge amount of respect for blended whiskey. Fun fact is that some distilleries were just actually created as whiskeys that would make the blend. Like they would make, let's say, if this had 10 blends, one distillery would just be part of one of those 10 blends that they had to produce. So I joked a bit around or about the whiskey here. And the whiskey here, it was actually, and I have to look at my notes here, it was actually started back in 1896 by, what was his guy's name? Matthew Gloak. And what's interesting about the story is that Matthew Gloak, he got the deal. And that meant he had actually with the royal family, he had the deal to provide beverages to them. So he said, okay, I got the deal. Why should I work? So he made the son produce the whiskey or blend the whiskey. And he made the daughter make the logo. Really beautiful logo. This bird, that was the daughter's idea. Fun fact. But in 1960s, maybe it's 1960, a bit later, but around the 60s, this was bought by Edmonton Group. And if you don't know who Edmonton Group is, you probably know their whiskeys. Maybe you've heard of this small brand called Macallan or Highland Park. Maybe you haven't. They're not so famous. But anyways, that means that the flavor you get here, a lot of times we'll think, this tastes a bit like Macallan or tastes a bit like Highland Park. That's probably because there might be not just a small amount of Macallan or a small amount of Highland Park, but it actually has a lot of it. For me, the first thing, and this is not the one we're talking about today, the famous Naked, which is a more high-end Famous Grouse, that's like tasting a Macallan. I'll be honest, like first time tasting, I'm like this tastes exactly like a Macallan. Bit different, but still Macallan. Anyways, first category. I'm talking too much today. I'm sorry. Oh, really sweet on the nose. And one thing I wanted to point out with blends, usually they're very easy to drink. That's the whole point. So it should be very beginner friendly. Wow. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I have two completely different. Okay, first you got really like a sweet entry, and then you got this unrefined alcohol flavor. So, to be honest, I think it's a great whiskey. If you had like 8 whiskeys before this one, it's a great whiskey. But like the aroma and the flavor, just only the initial part of the aroma reflects the flavor. Because when you sip it again, for your sake, it's easy to drink. Eesh. Yeah, it's easy to drink, but the problem is you got like the beginning stages. You have a sweet, and just in the middle of the flavor, you get this slightly, actually not slightly, you actually get strong bitterness that just is a too big a contrast to be balanced. So beginner friendly, not as a dram. Sorry, that is. And actually, I'll be honest, I was looking forward to taste this one. I was actually having high hopes. How beginner friendly is it? I would put it at a 4. Because it's like it just doesn't hit the mark. I'm sorry. And I actually had high hopes for this one. So let's say in about the second category, how original is it? Can't score it that high. They have a huge series of this. I'm actually struggling to remember all the different types they have of this one. To be honest, I think the naked is more original. Probably that I will put a picture here how it looks, the naked one. But this one, I'm sorry, it just I didn't fall in love with it, and that's I was hoping it would be better in the flavor, and I was hoping as well in flavor it will also give a bit of creativity, because the whole selection or the range is not that creative, to be honest. They're just rebranding. So what cocktail? So what cocktail? Because that's the only way we can save this. Right off the bat, before we go into the cocktails, good recommendation just on the flavor profile, ginger ale. Ginger ale will be like spot on for this one. But cocktail. Yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised for a cocktail I would use it for, and that's a Manhattan. I think because of the bitterness that it has, that would actually have a very nice complementary flavor to the bitterness you can get from the Manhattan. However, you would not have to go cheap on the vermouth, because if you went cheap on that, then you wouldn't hit like the balance you need from this one. And yeah, it has a bit of flavor notes, so yeah, I think in the Manhattan it will go very well. But yeah, I was not a big fan of this whiskey, and it's really rare that happens. So my verdict, is it worth your money? Around 20 euros. That's a good question. Because as a dram, no. As a cocktail whiskey, yes. But at full price, no. If you see it on discount, you see an offer where maybe it's 15 euros, then try it. It's a good mixing whiskey. I would recognize that it's a really good mixing whiskey. But As a dram, it's not worth it. I just don't see it being balanced. I don't see it beginner friendly. I just don't see it where a lot of other blends are. Like I said in the beginning, I like blends, so it's not that part. So is it worth the money? That's a big no. Buy it on offer. So yeah, please remember to subscribe and like this video or channel. But you don't need to like this whiskey though. But you should try it, because you always should try to broaden your perspective. My name is Leonardo, and it was a pleasure doing a whiskey review for you.